My name is John Riley. Well, I have been in Opa-locka over 50 years. I'm originally from Alabama. I got involved with the Opa-locka Housing Authority and the community development in the 70s. And eventually I became one of Opa-locka's elected officials, first as a city commissioner, then as mayor, then as a city commissioner and assistant city manager. I enjoy helping people, and that's what I feel government is for, actually. I actually came here as a housing consultant in 1974 for Carib Housing, and they were a low-income housing developer to help them with their management and etc. I handle properties between Florida City and Pompano, with 4 of them in the Carroll City, Opa-locka area. And I actually lived on the property here in Opa-locka.
And so you decided to stay. Tell me
Right.
why.
I was supposed to be here for 6 months, and I was given the opportunity to stay longer, and the weather enticed me. I came in February 1974. It was, I had been through the area in the 60s. Of course, I was in the military at the time. I got out of the military in 1970 after 7.5 years. But Opa-locka was trying to integrate, per se. One of the challenges that I had when I was first elected was the ordinances on the book that dealt with segregation. And there was laws on the book that actually prohibited blacks from being on the west side of 27th Avenue after 6 p.m. So, and there was actually some who did not really want them in other areas, but after World War II, the Veterans Administration built a number of housing that allowed veterans to buy homes. That's really what caused the integration of the city of Opa-locka. The old city hall used to have a banister over the second floor, and it had reverse Ks, 3 Ks there on that walkway. Most of the area, what we know as now Gardens, the area that we in was, at the time in 74, I would say 80% white. And most of the buildings that I took over management was about 60 to 70% white at the time. That was the downturn. Actually, the white flight took in 1988. This is predominantly because the commission at that time became, the members were all black. And to give you an idea of the white flight, there was houses going for as little as $8,000 during that period of time. Some of those same houses that went for $8,000 in 1988 are selling for $200,000 today. So during that period, you could count the Hispanic in town. The area basically was predominantly black. Now, you can almost begin to count the blacks.
Yeah.
That's the changes that has occurred here since the 1970s. The downtown area from Alabama to Scheherazade, I had envisioned as a Mayfair from Coconut Grove, with hotels and shopping areas. I had the opportunity to be invited to, as the mayors of the Arab states in 1986, to Saudi Arabia, to Jordan, and I presented to them concepts of the Mayfair under the Moors architect. One thing, they was impressed of the designs of buildings they did not know that existed here in the United States. And they were willing to invest in the city of Opa-locka. I lost the election in '86, and believe it or not, the land was given away to the state to build a state building that would serve no purpose to the city of Opa-locka. And so its economic development went right out the window. Oftentimes, unfortunately, in government, you have people, if it wasn't their idea, they let it go. But we have to look beyond and look at the future. The other thing that I had presented, had plans for in 1985 was a 5-phase annexation plan. Had I remained in office, had that gone through, Miami Gardens, Miami Lakes, Doral as we know it now, would have all have been city of Opa-locka, because that was the outlook and plan at that particular time. It would have become the 5th largest predominantly black community in the United States. Well, at the time, we had a 9-member county commission. And in 1986, we had some good support at that time. But our area was Sherman Wynn. Sherman was really good. We had 3 congresspersons who was really helpful to us, Claude Pepper, Bill Lehman, and Bill Lehman used to meet at least once a month with all of us. The relationship in politics was different then. Yeah. Well, we had a charter change in '85. The biggest charter change we had was before my time. That was 1955, 1954, where the city of Opa-locka changed from a strong mayor form of government to a commission manager form of government. During that time, all of the officials ran as a commissioner, and the highest vote getter became the mayor. In 1984, I ran as a commissioner, and I came in 5th place in the primary. We had primaries then. And usually if a person come in 5th place in the primary, it's kind of hard to even make a seat. But the first time in the history of the city of Opa-locka, the person that came in first in the primary lost in the general election. I came in fifth in the primary, came out first in the general election. And the person who came in second and third in the primary came out second and third in the general election. I had several charter revisions while I was in office. And we created the office of mayor with charter provision in 1985. Prior to that, the term of office was 2 years. Now they're 4. We got that done. We extended the time for vice mayor to 4 years. We eliminated primary elections. These are several charter amendments, not all at the same time. I don't know, have you seen the ballot for this year?
I have.
Okay. You see the constitutional amendments?
Yep.
That's the way charter amendments are supposed to be on the ballot. To explain to the voters what it is they're voting on.
Yep.
The charter amendments in 2012 had a one-liner. Shall the city of Opa-locka charter be updated? Yes or no? That was it. The people did not know what they was voting on. And so we ended up with a really messed up charter. It's been a problem ever since. But that's another day. I'm still frustrated with that because government is a service organization. It's basically to provide service to the people. And it takes people to provide that service. And people has to be cared for. And those people who provide the service has to be cared for. This was talked about by President Roosevelt in the 1930s, which he created the Civil Service Act for civil service for employees of the government. Prior to that, it was just at a whim, and we had those problems in Opa-locka up until the charter change of 1954. Every time there was an election, the employees changed. So once that we went to the commission manager form of government, we created the civil service personnel that gave full-time employees and part-time employees civil service status. It is necessary for government to provide the best service possible to those that reside within its boundaries. One of the other areas that I am hurt about and still hope to achieve is the Opa-locka Airport. Glenn Curtis gave to the United States government a portion of the airport as a military base during World War II. That airport was actually governed as an airport before Miami International was done. Anyway, it was a Marine base. The Quonset huts that you see in the area was the housing for the Marines. And 1 square mile of the base was incorporated Opa-locka. incorporated Opa-locka, and it still exists today, incorporated Opa-locka. It takes a vote to annex property. It takes a vote to acquire it, and it also takes a vote to eliminate it. I can't find in the documents where there was a vote to eliminate it. After World War II, the airport was decommissioned as a military base. It was still owned by the United States government. That portion, during the human crisis, what we call the missile crisis, the Bay of Pigs, the headquarters was, Opa-locka Airport was recommissioned, and it became the headquarters for that activity. The city had it and dealt with it prior to that, and there was restrictions to give it back to the Opa-locka, because when the government has something and they have a release on it, there's something they call the first right of refusal. The first right of refusal will go to, if it's within a municipality, it will go to that municipality. If they refuse, then it will go to the county that it is in. If they refuse, then it will go to the state that it's in. And if they refuse, it will go to an organization like the CDC or some nonprofit organization. That's how it fills down. So the city refused it, and the county took it. But the city did not give up the land. It has no authority to do that. I understand that there was a court case, but even the court has no authority to do that. Anything that has to be done with voters has to be done with voters. The government nor the courts can take the right of the voters away. And so hopefully we will find the right attorneys that can find the right information, and hope that gets done. Well, the growth and the economic value of that land would be more than all of this. That 1 square mile can provide more revenue than the other 3.5 square miles combined, because that is all commercial. But they are saying that it all has to be airport related, but some of the things that is over there is not airport related. There was an aviation point at there, because there was grants done in the 1970s and 80s to Florida Memorial, who was doing flight schools. In fact, during the 1960s and early 70s, there were more takeoff and landings from the Opa-locka Airport. The only one that had more than Opa-locka was the one in South Vietnam that was in the war. And that was because of the various flight schools from various countries, from the Caribbean to Africa, that had students at the flight school there. In 1984, there was an agreement made with Miami-Dade County to close the park at the airport with the city of Opa-locka, and they would open Amelia Earhart Park. The eastern section of the park is in the corporate city limits of Opa-locka. That agreement is never materialized because the park was closed, but nothing has happened with that. There was an archery there. There were horses there. A person used to bring in camels for our Arabian Nights from there. And as you can see that there was, you'll see ammo dumps at that airport. You can see the round mounds that are still there today. But there was a lot of activities there. We had the Goodyear blimp was housed at the airport. That old hangar was on several scenes from the Miami Vice movie. Was done at the airport. The first Bad Boys movie, part of it was done at the Opa-locka airport. So there has been a lot of things that has occurred there that could have been licensed and benefits to the residents of the city of Opa-locka. It's unfortunate prior to 1979, the biggest thing you had in Opa-locka was people shooting dice on the street and people running numbers. There was no drugs here. As the government changed, the influx of drugs came in 1982 and really hit hard in 1984 and 85. I know that I helped introduce with the National Conference of Black Mayors to the American Conference of Mayors at a convention in Puerto Rico, at the National Drug Act, because of what was happening with crack cocaine and what was going on. That was one. The other part is the change in government from basically an all-white commission or a mostly white commission to an all-black commission made an impact. The participation in government went down here. Even right now, the residents don't participate in government meetings. They really don't know what's going on, and half the time you don't think they really care. How do you get them to care? How do you get them to participate? Whereas when the other group was here, it was standing room. They were there all the time. We had accounts payable. We had more information would go out to the residents as to what was taking place, what was going on. The charter change in 2012 changed a lot of that. And it just seemed that from that point, people just started not to care. In 1976, we had the commission passed an ordinance establishing a rapid rail system in the city for trash pickup. the trash was basically in the alleys, and the trash truck pick up garbage in the alleys. The city had its own garbage. Even before that, the city had its own. Before the county became a charter county, the city had its own dump, trash dump, garbage dump. But at any rate, the lines went out, and there was a mobilization of people to fight against in the rapid rail. Same system we have now, but we would have had it in the 70s, you know, had it not been. And that's what kept the change from the majority of blacks in the 70s from materialized that did later in the 80s. Had that rallying point not come together, it would have happened much sooner. But I'm just saying to you how certain things can happen within the community that pull people out of the woodwork and get them involved. And most of the time it's based on something that is awful, because with a lot of the RVs, people have the pipes from the sewer running out on the ground. And they're not connected to the main sewer lines. And I went through that in Vietnam. You know, Vietnam, Honduras, France, you got most of the place have open sewer lines, and that's just, but it brings other animals and stuff in, and it's a health problem. Because after a while it gets in the atmosphere. But I don't know, it's not so much of high rent as it is with greed. A lot of people started off with family members, and now it just become a second rental property. And it's an RV is not a proper rental property. It does not have the space, and for a long term, especially for big families. And to have 5 and 6 people in a RV is crazy. You see, one of the things that we did have that was very vital prior to 2012, the city had a housing authority. The housing authority is authorized by state statute, the Constitution. There's a difference between a housing board and a housing authority. Okay? Housing authority, there are certain actions that they can take. A housing board is an advisory board. A housing authority is a quasi-judiciary board. Okay? That's the difference. And just like it was with the Civil Service Board, it was a quasi-judiciary board, not an advisory board. An advisory board is just that, they advise. But an authority means you have authority to take action to do A, B, C. I recall having to subpoena HUD for the housing problem that we were having in the city. And they said no. We went to court. Judge told them, that or jail. They showed up. I know I was the chairman at that time, so we was having issues with HUD subsidized housing in the city, and we got a resolution because we had the authority to do so and to demand certain things, in which things happen, and this condenser is continuous in Opa-locka, that is happening because there are those who serve in various capacities really don't have an understanding of what the government is all about and what its function. See, there's a difference in an authoritarian and people who have power in one place, and in a democracy, which share power. The reason so is that your elected official and administration don't have all of the expertise. And most municipalities or counties cannot go out and hire all of the experts. If you go out to hire all the experts to put them on your payroll, you wouldn't have a budget. You can't afford it. So you get volunteers within your community, some who are non-residents, some who have the expertise to fulfill these boards and serve on them. And say, for instance, with the housing authority, the statute has a specification of what those members has to be. And but that's not you need for a housing board. You know, I served on the housing authority in Opa-locka. I served on the housing board for the county of Miami-Dade, and I know the difference. But it's going to take training. But will there be people willing to listen and to be trained in order to operate better for the community? That's the next problem. Well, in all honesty, if we can't get back control of the airport, the economy of Opa-locka is gone. In 1993, Arizona Tea wanted to come to Opa-locka. They were turned down. They would have been over there on the west side, you know. I've been on the east side, you know. The economy is what dollars turn over within the community. How many times that dollar turn over? In Asian communities, a dollar turns over 9 times.
In Black community?
0.
Yep, it's less than 1. Yep.
Okay? When we talk about future, I'm talking about sustainability. Okay? And what we actually own. The warehouses in the 80s were basically predominantly white. You had a lot of blacks to come in the late 80s and early 90s. The junkyard was supposed to be on just one side on Carroll Lane. That was where it's supposed to be. We had a comprehensive plan that was passed in 1985. I know after I left office, new regime, the comprehensive plan, they paid no attention to it, and the ones we have now pay no attention to it. If that was the case, how do we get a housing unit on 27th Avenue in those warehouses over there? Spot zoning is a violation of law in the state of Florida. We got a storage unit on 27th Avenue. Spot zoning. They wanted to build a truck stop up on State Road 9. It was another spot zoning. No one, and even those on the dais, is unaware that spot zoning is a violation of law. Because it creates problems within municipalities as well as within the county, because you should have certain boundaries that allow certain industry and certain, so that people in residential areas would have peace and quiet. Those in industrial areas be able to do their business. Those in the business community will be able to do theirs. But does the people in the positions of power understand what a comprehensive plan is? And until those things, I would rather teach about government than to be in government. Knowledge is power. The Bible says to me, so the lack of knowledge is the reason people perish. And you can see that in Opa-locka. Well, I look at the economy and I'm saying unless we can improve the economy, June of 2016, the city of Opa-locka went on a financial emergency. It's 2024. Still on financial emergency. According to state statute, that's supposed to be cleared up in 5 years.
Sorry, could you say that again?
No. Supposed to be cleared up in 5 years. That's why I can't say a clear vision for Opa-locka, because the unstabilization of its government, including its administration, and the stagnation and the lack of knowledge that is hurting the city. What I do envision, if it doesn't change, another group is going to come in here and take over.
Yeah.
And I can see that's happening within the next 6 years.
Yeah.
I would like to see the return of the Arabian Nights Festival. I would like to see if the city couldn't somehow get used to that state building that offers nothing for the city of Opa-locka. I would also like to see where the old fire station down. You can't even remember that Opa-locka had its own fire department and all of these things in the past the things that it had just does not have exist. We had a fire department. We used to make our own water. We had our own trash and garbage. All of these services we had in the past that it's impossible to have today. I could never see with the trash and garbage service, why would commercial people want it if it's not making money? When I left the office, we had trash and garbage trucks. They were brand new. They were paid for. And we ended up borrowing money on them. I don't know why, but anyway, we had revenue, excessive revenue when I left the office. And next thing I know, we were in debt. To give you another problem that Opa-locka has, and you probably, I don't know if you realize it, but the residents doesn't. In 1986, all municipalities are required to have insurance, liability insurance. Our premium was $60,000 a year. with the attitude of the commissioners over the years, our premium is $2.5 million a year. We're paying for premium of a city of this size. Half of what the city of Miami pays. We have 16,000 residents. They got way over 100,000. Why is that? And to me, when you have things like that, it's just money going out the window for no reason at all. For instance, give you an idea, on Wilmington Street, the lake over there, we had a concrete company here in Opa-locka offered, I know, in 2020, concrete blocks, they're about as long as this rug, 2 feet high, 2 feet wide. They were going to give them to the city. They could have blocked off access to the lake over there. The access to that lake is a liability on the city of Opa-locka. City said no. I'm saying, what are they thinking? They were, when they wanted to order the police and the manager to, this was when I was on the commission, to close the strip club. I told them, I said, look, we'll be facing a lawsuit because you're wrong. I had some people who were serving on the commission now to say back then, so what? We get a lawsuit. Okay. Cost them almost $2 million. The law says if you have property and you want to do business of something that is permitted in that area, in order to stop them, you got to buy the property. That's what the law is. How we ended up with the land on Wilmington Street in 1979, the company bought that property. It was zoned industry because we had another piece of land that's zoned industry. They wanted to put an industry over there in the warehouses. The residents didn't want it. The city paid $112,440 for that property. It's worth $1.5 million today. What bothers me the most is how we treat each other. I'm concerned about how we treat our employees, and our employees makes the difference on how our residents feel about their community. And we have a problem. I hope some way, somehow, we're able to address that. Treat people the way you want to be treated, in and out of government.